YouTube, capital G here. Got a pretty awesome duel for you guys to check out. This duel is legitimately meme worthy. I'm actually dueling in this duel. I'm down here at the bottom with my invoked build of generators. Generators are technically playable currently in the TCG, but I would not recommend playing this deck before we get Eternity Code in the TCG because it just doesn't function on a high enough level for me. Like, I don't even think it's rogue level right now. When we get the cards from Eternity Code, it's going to get significantly better and be able to do some much better plays, especially with Generator Stage. You can see I'm dueling against Gladiator Beast in this duel, and the memes are going to be pretty damn crazy in this duel because some crazy stuff is going to happen. A couple of plays I've never quite experienced, then we're gonna do some troll plays just for the memes. Anyways, let's go ahead and roll it. Now, my first turn will kind of show why I personally like the invoke build of generators more than some of the other builds. I know that there's the Mech Knight build, but that requires some OCG link monsters that maybe we'll get in the TCG, maybe we won't get them in Duel Overload, who knows. I just like the invoke build because it does give you the option to go into one card negation as long as you're able to get to your Alistair the Invoker, which Magical Meltdown gives you another copy of that card. Basically, you can go straight into Merkaba off of one card. Actually, is it technically 0 cards? Because you end up with the Alistair back in your hand, so it's kind of like a 0 card Merkaba. In addition to this, if you run the World Legacy Monstrosity, I believe, that's the one that can summon 2 level 9s from your deck. Your Merkaba just happens to be level 9, so you can turn this into like a True King of all Calamities, turn 0, which is very powerful. But even if you don't have that, a 0 card Merkaba is just really strong. And when you follow it up with Generator Stage, it gives you a very solid board. You guys will see what I'm talking about here. We're going to summon Lopter from our deck. We're going to get our 4 tokens, and generally you want to use Lopter's effect ASAP, so he's going to throw out, I believe that's Unexpected Die. The first thing I'm going to do is obviously try to get my Horror on field because Horror is negation and it's also disruption. We drew Horror, which kind of sucks, but it's fine. We play another one in our deck. So now we have some, we got a pretty stacked field. Now the interesting thing is he's going to use Vishuddha, and I don't think that we want that to happen. He's trying to bounce my Horror. He's basically forcing out a negation. I have to throw it, otherwise I'm going to lose my boss monster. So we're going to go ahead and use that negation. He uses Link Spider's effect. The reason I did not negate that is because he had not committed his normal summon yet, and I was like, I don't know what the rest of this guy's hand is. He hadn't used his normal summon. I don't want to, end up negating something, and then he still has a normal summon like Rescue Rabbit, and it's like really strong or something like that. So he is going to continue on. He's going to get his search from Test Panther. The reason I did not negate the Test Panther as well is because of Horror's effect. Horror is very similar to Dark Law. If your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand outside of the draw phase, you get to take away one of their monsters. Now, I didn't know he was going to get rid of an Andal. This guy had 3 Andals, like within this is basically all he's played, just 3 copies of Andal. That's actually kind of crazy. He's going to go for Gladiator Beast, come back, summon the Andal back from the graveyard. Now, I'm going to go ahead and negate the Test Panther because I feel like he's committed enough resources. Now this is where the duel is going to get pretty damn wonky. I had never had this happen to me, and this is why I never even thought about this. The thing about generators is obviously the entire deck is based around the field spell, and this does let you summon a lot of times 5 monsters during your opponent's turn. I never put 2 and 2 together. That made me realize you can actually get Nibiru during your opponent's turn because Generator Stage summons so many monsters. And actually, I believe during this turn I've summoned 6 monsters because I also gave one of my tokens up for the copy of Lopter. If you guys don't know, these tokens all summon individually, so it does count as 4 monsters with the token. And you guys are gonna see, he says, Cap, you know what, I can't actually win this duel, but to hell with you, hold this rock, my boy. He's gonna go ahead and Nibiru me. Again, it's his turn. I had never been Nibiru during my opponent's turn, and then just for the memes, boys, I felt so disrespected that someone had Nibiru'd me during their own turn. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna Nibiru you right back. That was also pretty damn spicy. Now obviously this was not the best play because I did just give up an 11,000 attack token, which I could have just one-shot him with the token. But sometimes, guys, you gotta go for the meme plays because in the grand scheme of things, I personally value memes more than victory in Yu-Gi-Oh! It doesn't matter, honestly, because I am still going to ultimately win. I've got the Alistair train going. He doesn't seem to really have a response. I think I'm going to turn my Almirage into a Secure Gardener just so I can have a little more damage. The Secure Gardener Gardener can get over his Nibiru token, and this is pretty much going to be a wrap. I thought about going for Purgatrio for a second because it has that piercing effect, but I don't believe that I would have actually been able to game him there. So I felt like having the disruption of man, I'm forgetting my fusion monster, Makaba. It was just better at that point. He has Ash Blossom, but we do have the Called by the Grave for the Ash Blossom, so he's just going to scoop it up. Even if I didn't have Called by the Grave, I could have used Makaba's effect, I could have discarded the Alistair, and I could have negated the Ash Blossom, and I probably would have summoned, so I didn't have any more horrors, right? Because I think both of them have been used at that point. I probably would have summoned Utgard from my deck because Utgard is another disruptive card, and he only had one card in hand, so something like Nidhogg I don't think really would have been that valuable. Anyways, let's pause for one quick second. I'll show you guys my deck list. Alright, so this is my build of generators. As I said before, I play the Invoke build of generators because Alistair is such a ridiculous normal summon, being able to go into Invoke Merkaba essentially for like 0 cards. It's so strong, especially if you open up with Merkaba plus Generator Ball Stage. You have multiple negations. You also have even more disruption with the horror. This deck will actually be better around like when we go in the Master 05, which by the time that we get Eternity Code and we get these generator monsters, it will be MR5. The reason it'll be better is because, as you guys saw on the duel, when I summoned my Merkaba, I had to summon it to the extra monster zone because of Master 04, but in MR5 you won't have to summon it there. You could summon it in the main monster zone, and what that means is if you open up with Merkaba plus you happen to have like the World Legacy monstrosity, you can make True King of all calamities by summoning your other random generators from your deck, and even if your opponent has Nibiru, you can just negate it with Merkaba. So your opponent has to have like Nibiru plus impermanence to kind of out it, and you can obviously summon your True King of all calamities using the 2 level 9s you summon from your deck and have those guys in the extra, or have the True King of all calamities in the extra monster zone. I personally like the run Extravagance. I know it can be a little risky because you know, you do play certain cards. Like I've had duels where I banish all 3 of my Merkabas and I'm like, oh crap, I just lose now. Or I've had duels where I banish all my Almirages, but generally speaking, I like Extravagance more than the level 9 draw card because it's just more economical. Like as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, I'm never gonna play a card that is a 1-for-1 when I could just play like a +1 in general. And again, you don't really use your extra deck except Merkaba and like the other monsters that lead you into Merkaba. Generators is an interesting archetype because it's probably the only archetype I've ever played in all my years of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you don't really want to draw like any of the cards. I hate to say this because generators do have good cards, but individually, so many of these cards are terrible to draw. Basically, everything in the entire deck is just bad to draw when it comes to generators, except Stage. Stage is always good. This deck is very similar to like Spiral or Phantasm Spiral. You always need the field spell or you're probably losing. Lopter isn't bad. Like Lopter's the only other card that's like fairly good to draw, but I would rather summon Alistair than summon Lopter because this gets you instant negation and it kind of, you know, recycles itself, gives you the disruption. Lopter is probably your only other good normal summon in this deck, but don't be mistaken. Like drawing any of these level 9 monsters is just terrible. Generally speaking, unless you have the quest, which the only reason this card's even good is because it gets you to your stage. This card's not actually good on its own merits. If you draw any of these guys, they're basically just dead in your hand unless you play things like Super Poly in the main, or you have some type of discard outlets, or you happen to get the quest. Boss Fight is another card that, again, it's not actually good. The only reason it's good per se is because it gets you to stage. Stage is like the entire deck. You play the other generator cards because they get you to stage, but they themselves are like not actually good in this deck. But it's a fun deck. I don't think that it'll be meta because like if you're a smart Yu-Gi-Oh player, you know how to beat generators. All you need to do is just, if you ever want to beat generators, just fucking get rid of the field spell. It can be as simple as using like an MST during the draw phase. If you stop this field spell, this entire deck crumbles, I promise you. And when it gets rolling though, it's definitely a very momentum based deck that can take over. I've summoned True King of all calamities against like Lunalights turn 0 and just won the game off of that card because they couldn't do anything. But it's a fun deck. I might play it at a regionals or so when these cards come out in May. But anyways, whatever you guys think, leave it in the comment section section below. Of course, if you guys want to play this deck, it'll be in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe and turn on that notification bell for daily videos. This video has been brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/MegaCapitalG. Over 180,000 titles to choose from on your Apple or Android device. Cancel anytime with no obligations. I'm listening to The Amazing Wrestling for My Life by Shawn Michaels. Link in the description.